Hello and welcome to the news at 10 on NTA News 24. We are reaching you live from Abuja. My name is Blessing Abu. Here are the headlines. Vice President Osinbajo optimistic of economic growth and poverty eradication.
We can leapfrog into the digital age. But the answer to these issues is simple: education, education, education.
Minister of State Petroleum meets Niger Delta leaders on petroleum industry bill. Federal government partners states and other key players to meet water needs of Nigerians.
Out of the 37 projects that we inherited, we have completed 12. And 20 more are prioritized for completion by 2023.
And Nigeria pushes for better access to justice for children. Yes, now let's take the details. Despite the current turbulent social-economic conditions in the country and the tough challenges they pose, generating economic growth, eradicating poverty, developing human capital, and building up Nigeria's infrastructural backbone in a sustainable manner is certainly doable, especially with a sense of urgency, says Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. The Vice President says all the tiers of government and critical partners ought to be focused, open-minded, and collaborative in meeting shared aspirations, providing better and fuller lives and decent jobs for Nigerians, especially the youth. Vice President Osinbajo expresses these while virtually declaring open the 20th meeting of the Joint Planning Board and the National Council on Development Planning, holding in Maiduguri, Borno State. The Vice President spoke mainly on the COVID-19 pandemic, security, climate change, education, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Note that these issues require deliberate policy responses and deserve the attention of economic managers.
We can leapfrog into the digital age. But the answer to these issues is simple: education, 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 especially basic education. It is scandalous for us to be dealing with out-of-school children, hundreds of thousands of out-of-school children. It's purely scandalous. We must put our resources into education. And today we have no choice but to focus on relevant education. Education that will prepare our young people for 21st century jobs and opportunities. And it's not that difficult. That is which is the good news. It's not that difficult. Teaching coding in schools today, teaching coding, teaching digital skills in schools today is simpler and simpler every day. And we can do it. It's entirely possible. But it will require that we provide our young people with skills, with some skills, especially through STEM education: science, technology, engineering, and maths education.
Speaking on the government's response to the pandemic, the Vice President said the COVID-19 pandemic has had a unique and devastating impact on health, economic systems, and social life, stating that for a vibrant and enterprising people like Nigerians, the whole experience of lockdowns and social distancing has been quite trying, while economic difficulties made existing social economic conditions even harder. With 30 completed water supply projects of over 1.7 million liters per day capacity, development of infrastructure in the water sector in Nigeria from 2016 till date has been described as a great revolution. Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, says there are several other projects that are ongoing and the federal government is partnering states as well as other stakeholders to meet the water needs of the nation. State House correspondent Gideon Ifade reports.
The policy of the Buhari administration since inception is focused on completion of uncompleted projects, some of which had been abandoned for decades. Going by the saying that water is life, the administration, through its Ministry of Water Resources, has touched almost all areas with a view to providing sustainable access to safe and sufficient water for social and economic development needs, as well as adequate sanitation by 2030.
So on the dams, there are over 200 dams in this country with a capacity of 11.2 billion cubic meters for irrigation, 900 million cubic meters for water supply, and 18 billion cubic meters for hydropower. Out of the 37 projects that we inherited, we have completed 12. And 20 more are prioritized for completion by 2023.
Minister Suleiman Adamu says much have been done in the development of infrastructure, and though the supply of potable water rests solely on states, the federal government is intervening through collaboration and partnership with states, the private sector, and non-governmental organizations towards ensuring Nigerians have access to potable water.
Well, what we've been doing since 2015, we're being guided by three pillars. The National Water Resources Master Plan that has been existing since 1995, but was never really implemented to the letter. And the Water Sector Roadmap that we developed in 2015, which was approved by Mr. President in June 2016. And of course, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We inherited about 116, 38 irrigation and drainage projects, 37 dam projects, and 41 water supply projects. So after we did a technical audit in 2016, we prioritized them into high, medium, and low. And that has been what has been driving us.
The weekly executive briefing of press is initiated by the presidential media team. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
To boost mechanization of agriculture in Nigeria, the federal government is targeting the refurbishing of 55,000 broken-down tractors across the country. Secretary to the government of the Federation, Bas Mustafa, says government will explore public-private partnership to fund the National Tractor Recovery and Refurbishment Project. Mitaire Ekpen reports.
Statistics show that tractor density in Nigeria currently stands at 7 tractors per 100 square kilometers. Meanwhile, there are 30 tractors per 100 square kilometers in Kenya and about 100 tractors per 100 square kilometers in developed countries. Officials of the National Agency for Science, Engineering, Infrastructure, NASENI, believe there is need for a special presidential intervention to support the implementation of the National Tractor Recovery and Refurbishment Project already approved by the President.
This 55,000 tractor to be recovered will increase this to 50 per 100 square kilometer. At a maximum of 30% of the prevailing price of a brand new tractor, a broken down tractor can be recovered. Therefore, the scheme will require about 275 billion, which can be funded through different windows.
Research has shown that we need a minimum of 24,000 tractors annually.
The SGF notes that no country can make meaningful progress in agriculture without mechanization and assures that government will throw its weight behind the tractor recovery scheme towards promoting food security.
NISL has a very principal role to play in this intervention because they have the responsibility to de-risk those transactions through its credit risk guarantee scheme.
The National Tractor Recovery and Refurbishment Project is designed to engage thousands of Nigerian engineers, artisans, and technicians who will be trained by tractor manufacturers. In Abuja, Mitaire Ekpen, NTA News.
The federal government's resolve to stop importation of petrol petroleum products through the rehabilitation of refineries has again received a boost with the approval for the rehabilitation of Warri and Kaduna refineries. Lydia Samson will tell us more about this.
With work already ongoing at the Port Harcourt refinery, the largest refining company in the country, also confirmed by the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, that the first 15% of the contract sum has been paid to the contractor, and the contractor fully mobilized to site. The Kaduna refinery, completed and commissioned in 1980, like the Warri refinery, it was a modern conversion refinery with two parts, a 50,000 barrels per day plant and a 50,000 barrels per day lubes plant for production of lubricating oil blend stock, waxes and bitumen, while Warri Refinery and Petrochemical Company, on the other hand, was the first Nigerian government wholly owned refinery commissioned in 1978. It was built to process 100,000 barrels of crude oil per day, but was later debottlenecked to process 125,000 barrels per day in 1987. Essentially built to add value to some of the refinery byproducts such as propylene-rich stock and decant oil. Ironically, the refineries has not been producing at optimal capacity. This has in no small measure continuously contributed to the importation of petroleum products. The approval by the Federal Executive Council of contracts for the rehabilitation of Warri and Kaduna refineries at the combined sum of $1.484 billion, and the completion of the rehabilitation of Warri and Kaduna refineries will be in 3 phases.
897,678,800 US dollars for Warri refineries and 586,902,256 US dollars for Kaduna refineries.
The first phase is projected to be completed within 21 months. In 23 months, phase 2 will be completed, and in 33 months, the full rehabilitation will be completed. This is projected to play a critical role in changing the narrative of spending of huge foreign exchange on importation, as refining will be done in country. The Federal Executive Council also approved the acquisition of 20% minority stakes by the NNPC in Dangote Petroleum and Petrochemical Refinery to the sum of $2.76 billion. In Abuja, Lydia Samson, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, says the 3% host communities fund in the PIB, which will be deducted from the operational costs and not from profits, is in the best interest of the Niger Delta. The minister gave the advice when a 33-member delegation of Niger Delta elders and stakeholders paid him a solidarity visit in Abuja. Sylvia says he is even more worried about the utilization of the fund by the host communities peacefully without conflicts, considering past experiences.
If we in the Niger Delta, and we sit down, and I know you are some of the most credible leaders of the Niger Delta that are on this table. If we manage all the funds that are coming to the Niger Delta properly, NDDC, 13%, all the money coming in. Now, this host community development fund, even, the peripheral one coming from Amnesty, which we worked on, if all that money is being channeled properly, frankly, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we shouldn't be complaining again. A lot. So let us also spend some time to look at how we can manage what is coming in, especially with this new host community fund that is coming.
That even today, as Minister of State Petroleum Resources, your achievements in the volatile oil and gas industry, including the Herculean task of working with the 9th National Assembly towards the eventual passage of the PIB, awaiting presidential assent, will be indelible footprints in the sands of time.
The Niger Delta leaders expressed their continued support to the policies and programs of the federal government in repositioning the oil industry. The Senate Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs has described the proposed development of a presidential ward wing of the State House Clinic as a good initiative. This was during an oversight visit to the State House. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
2 weeks into the 2021 annual recess of the National Assembly, the Senate Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs has carried out a rescheduled oversight visit to the State House. The visit was to scrutinize the utilization of funds allocated to the State House in 2018, 2019 and 2020. Before the presentation of the budget performance, Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, on behalf of the President, welcomed the Parliamentary Committee and observed that there is prudent use of resources in the State House as leading example to other ministries, departments and agencies of government.
The State House, by its very nature, has to be a leader in transparency, in openness, and in accountability. These are really issues on which Mr. President feels strongly, and we have to lead by example.
Permanent Secretary to the State House, Tijani Omar, explained that out of the 8.6 billion naira appropriated in 2018, only 5 billion was released. 2.6 billion was released in 2019 out of 6.9 billion, while there was total release of 4.8 billion as appropriated in 2020. He listed some key capital projects undertaken within the period under review.
The construction of the presidential wing, or known as the VIP wing also of the State House Clinic, which was utilized for requisite preliminary works such as geotechnical survey.
This ward for the special hospital to be built for the president, vice president, and other important dignitaries that will come here for a visit. We don't supposed to come and mix them up with any other person here.
Thereafter, the committee was taken round the State House Clinic, site for the proposed presidential and VIP ward wing of the State House Clinic. From the State House, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
The news at 10 is reaching you live on NTA News 24. Details of federal government's livestock transmission project flag off are still ahead. Thank you for staying with us on the news at 10 on NTA News 24. The federal government has appealed to the National Association of Resident Doctors to return to work while negotiations continue. Minister of Health, Dr. Sergio Hadire, who made the appeal in Abuja, observed that it is urgent to correct misinformation in public domain concerning the industrial action embarked upon by members of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD. Basi Itaikman reports.
It's now 4 days since the resident doctors resumed strike, alleging non-compliance with agreements reached. But the Minister of Health says the federal government has always proactively engaged NARD to seek solutions to their complaints, assuring that the 12 resolutions outlined by them are in the process of being resolved.
I want to ask all of you to join appealing to our young doctors not to continue to use strike as a tool of which the victims can be people who are caught in between. As the saying goes, when two elephants fight.
The minister maintained that dialogue remains the best way to resolve issues, noting that Nigerians rely on doctors, especially now that the country is facing trying times in the health sector, stressing the need for the doctors not to give the public a wrong perception concerning the medical profession. Basi Taikwan, NTA News.
Nursing mothers in Nigeria have been encouraged to give attention to exclusive breastfeeding in order to provide babies with essential nutrients required for growth and development. This was the central message of the public awareness walk in commemoration of World Breastfeeding Week put together by Aisha Buhari Foundation under the Future Assured program. This is in collaboration with other development partners in Abuja. State House correspondent Aliyu Kabir reports.
This awareness work is part of the week-long activities organized by the Aisha Buhari Foundation and other development partners, including Federal Ministry of Health and Green Heroes Foundation, aimed to promote and support breastfeeding in Nigeria.
A well-breastfed child would have less instances of health challenges.
We are encouraging mothers to breastfeed their baby exclusively for the first 6 months of life without water, without any other thing. But after 6 months, the mother is also advised to add complementary food because at 6 months, the breast milk is no longer enough.
Heroes were in the barracks to create awareness of breastfeeding for all mothers, to know the importance of breastfeeding, because it's very important for every mother to breastfeed her child. Breastfeeding is more nutritious than giving in a milk.
This year's theme, Protect Breastfeeding, a shared responsibility, is a catalyst to encouraging breastfeeding, improve the health of babies, and adding value to the nation's growth and development. From the State House, Aliyu Kabir, NTA News.
Still on breastfeeding, it is the right of every child to be breastfed. As such, all segments of the society should be informed towards giving support to exclusive breast milk, considering the quality and advantages attached to breast milk. This is contained in Article 24 of the Convention on the Right of the Child. Major issues raised at the 2021 World Breastfeeding Week. Mojanatu Adam Sahid completes the report.
As champions for exclusive breastfeeding, I urge you all to utilize every available opportunity to reach out to other members of your family.
According to the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, 4 million out of the 7 million children born in Nigeria every year are not breastfed properly in the first hour of birth. Research findings also show that the rate of children exclusively breastfed for 6 months increases from 17 to 29%, meaning Nigeria is still significantly below the 50% target set by the World Health Assembly for 2025, as well as the SDG in 2030. These issues are some of the challenges the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, in collaboration with the Office of the First Lady, have been trying to address since 2012.
The vaccine is safe. The vaccine has protected lives of millions of children. The vaccine does not require any cold chain and is relatively cheap. And that vaccine is what? Breast milk.
It helps her as the uterus contracts postpartum. It helps her with better child spacing.
Mandatory for every organization to have a crèche so that we can encourage and promote breastfeeding for our children, because it is the healthiest and safest way to bring up our children.
Other stakeholders here believe the private sector and organizations must invest in interventions that can promote, protect, and support breastfeeding mothers. In Abuja, Murjanatu Adam Said, NTA News.
And the National Center for Women Development has inaugurated Dr. Aisha Buhari NCWD Daycare Center with a view to encourage breastfeeding and productivity of working mothers and their babies. Ngozi Sylvia Technicure reports that the inauguration ceremony was performed by the wife of the Vice President on behalf of the nation's First Lady.
That marks the official inauguration of the renovated daycare center, equipped with the state-of-the-art facilities to suit the well-being of children between the ages of 4 months to 3 years. Wife of the Vice President, Dolapo Osibajo, who stood in for the wife of the President, Aisha Buhari, emphasizes the importance of providing a conducive working environment for women and breastfeeding mothers.
The National Center for Women Development today is providing that enabling environment to support women's participation in the economic sector.
I want to use this opportunity to once again call on all organizations at all levels to key into this initiative of setting up support facilities for working class mothers.
And when women have economic decision-making powers, one of the things they always invest in is their children and their children's education.
As long as I will be in this center, I must be able to maintain it over the period.
The daycare center was built 30 years ago and named after Nana Kofi Annan, but had long been dilapidated. Ngozi Silva, Technical, NTA News.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 566 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria within the last 24 hours. The breakdown of the new cases from 12 states indicates that Lagos State tops the daily statistics with 283 new cases, while Akwa Ibom follows with 88 new cases, Oyo and Rivers 62, Federal Capital Territory 18, Ogun has 17, Ekiti is with 12, Kwara 11, Plateau 6, while Zamfara has 3 new cases. The day's tally is, however, completed by Kaduna and Katsina states with 2 new cases each. With this development, Nigeria now has 176,577 total confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 165,323 patients were treated and discharged, while the death toll is now 2,178. You're watching News at 10, reaching you on NTA News 24. The fate of one of the world's best footballer players, Messi, hangs in the balance. Details in sports are still ahead.